gonna share my screen. I need to make sure I share the right one. Okay. I welcome questions anytime, and I would really appreciate your help, Sally, in just keeping an eye on that so I don't miss any questions. I think it's important that we can interact with each other and you can stop me. So please don't feel shy about asking questions anytime. Okay, so I have a deck for everyone today just because I doubt you want to stare at my face the whole time. So this is our chat today about Instagram specifically for the Matricast community. So specifically for providers. What I teach to retail shop owners is just slightly different. So I hope you'll really take some good nuggets away from today. Just a brief intro about me. I am not a business owner by study or by trade. This has all been through my life experience and what I've seen a need for, especially in the small business space. I started out in the fitness world. I was a blogger and a food photographer, and that was my insight, 10, 15 years ago into the importance of social media. And not only that, but building relationships. And not only that, but building really close relationships. And to me, I've had the business for 9 years now. What has really made an impact in not only my own business, but the businesses of my clients is building these really tight knit, close, deep relationships that are meaningful and conversational with their audience, with the followers, with their future clients and customers. And I work with small business owners, entrepreneurs, mostly service providers, although I do have some who are in the product space. But this is my bread and butter. I love speaking to people like you who have a service to provide and a need to fill. My values are building these genuine connections with people and teaching people how to do that, because that is important. That is what's going to get someone to want to reach out to you, to want to support your business, to give you a referral. So that's really important to me. This idea of professional vulnerability, which we will talk about when we get to the content section of the workshop. I think that's really important, that takes your brand from being bland and just generic to being personal and personable and memorable, and a business that people will actually want to pay attention to and to stop scrolling past. And then I really pride myself on simple and effective tactics and strategies for folks because we all know we're busy business owners. We have, a life outside of our business sometimes. And so it's important that the tactics and the strategies that we talk about today are really simple and effective and that can actually work for your business. Today's agenda, by the end of this workshop, I really want you to leave with 2 to 3 actionable steps that you feel can help you grow a real community around your business and improve and increase connections on Instagram. And the things that we're going to talk about today are mindset, the features of Instagram, so the nuts and bolts and what the functions of each feature are, because they are different. They function in different ways, even though it's the same platform. We're going to go over my content framework that I have for you that you can use, take with you, do with it what you will to make it work for your business. And I do have an offer for you all today. And of course, I don't want to leave without doing a Q&A. And then, like we said before, questions anytime, please. I really welcome them. I don't want to talk the whole time. I want to hear from you guys. Okay, so a little bit of mindset shifts first. When people come to me and say, Instagram is not working for my business, I hate it, it's overwhelming, it's stressful, what exactly are they saying? In my experience, they are not speaking to a specific transformation. So what is it exactly that you help your people do? How do you transform their lives? How do you change their lives? I think for this space, it's a little easier to speak to that transformation because the work that you do is so tangible. And then what other people say that's not working is that they maybe try a feature, they post one reel, or they try one CTA, which is a call to action, like go to my website for more information, or let me know if you want this free download. And they get crickets, and then they get discouraged and give up, and then come to me and say Instagram's not working. So we kind of explore why that is, what goes into that, and what can we do moving forward. 2 more things that people say when they tell me it's not working: they don't go back and analyze what worked and what didn't work. And you can just, I don't know, put in the chat like me, because I've definitely done this. If you have, when was the last time you went back and looked at your insights on Instagram to see what was your most engaged with post, to see when your top when you're most when what time your people are most on, to go back and actually look at the data. That's going to help set the stage for what you can test in the future. So just a quick in the chat, like, have you done this before where you've just never, maybe you've never looked at your insights, maybe you looked at it a year ago, maybe you looked at it 6 months ago. I want to know if you all have been doing that so far. And then the last thing that people say is that they don't really have an organized plan. They just post and then get off the app and go about their business and then wonder why nothing is working. So we're going to tackle each of those and kind of talk about everything as a big picture. And then, this is what I want you all to feel like today or in 90 days after you've implemented the tactics that we talk about today. When people say that it is working, that Instagram is bringing in money for their business, it is putting them in front of more people, it is, getting them more clients and more visibility. They're talking about their offers way more than before. They're talking about it constantly. They're talking about different features, stories, reels, static posts. They also view Instagram marketing as a long game. If you're in the position right now as a business owner where you're not spending money on ads yet, because that's just not where you are, you're in a position of being able to spend more time compared to more money. You need to view Instagram as a long game. So I like to tell people, give it at least 90 days of implementing a real organized strategy before you determine whether or not that current strategy is working for you. Two more things. They take a test and tweak approach. So rather than thinking, all right, this Instagram coach who has 1 million followers told me to do it this way, to post 7 times a week and 3 times a day. I'm going to do it this way. And if I don't get it right, my business is going to fail. They take a test and tweak approach. So it's, let's change maybe the copy that we write, or let's change the images that we use. Maybe instead of using stock images, we work with a photographer to get brand photos. Is that going to work? And you kind of test little things at a time. It's always a test. We always test and tweak as we go. And there's no perfection, which I'm sure you all are aware of. There's no perfection, only progress, only testing things again and again. And then the last thing people say when they come to me and say that it's working is that there's a simple, clear, organized path. I don't know if you guys have ever felt overwhelmed or stressed about Instagram. Maybe this is a silly question or, a gotcha, but have you ever, raise your hand if you ever felt like Instagram is confusing or stressful, or you feel like there's way too much to do and you just wish there was a simpler way? We're going to talk about those simple paths today. Okay. I'm going to stop there and go on to beliefs that you need to have during today's workshop, or even after we are together this afternoon or this morning if you're on the West Coast. I offer a transformation, not just a transaction. And I think that's important because it takes Instagram from being purely transactional to a lot more relational and connection based. So if you know and you believe and you tell your people that you really do offer a transformation, not just a transaction, it changes the way you view Instagram. It changes the way you view your next post, whether it gets 5 likes or 5,000 likes. It really changes how you approach the platform. Another belief I would love for you to have is that you can build confidence simply by doing it. I worked with a retail business store owner who has a big hang up about reels and making them, and it makes them really nervous. And over the past few weeks, we've been building confidence just by doing it. I am sitting there with them, walking them through it. We do every step together, and I can already tell after 2 or 3 sessions that they're building confidence and just by doing it. Next belief I would love for you to have is that you can value the followers you already have, not the ones you don't. The one thing I don't love about social media is that it really highlights the people that have a lot, right? Have a lot of followers, have a lot of engagement, and it makes the people that don't have that much yet feel a certain way. So I want you to walk out of this knowing that the followers you already have are really valuable. If 10 people are following you, that's 10 people. You have a chance to change their lives and transform them and really connect with them. 10 is great, right? Just like 10,000 is great. I want you to shift your belief about Instagram, about your following. And then the last thing, which we touched on just a moment ago, is that it can take 90 plus days to see a shift. You're in it for the long game. Unless you've got tons of money to spend on ads and you're working with someone that really knows what they're doing with ads and Facebook ads and meta ads, maybe you'll see a sooner shift. But I really do want you to think like, all right, let me give myself 90 days to try these tactics. If that doesn't work, it doesn't mean my business is going to fail. It just means I need to go back and look at some other factors and test and tweak. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at big picture first, and then we're going to really zoom in and talk about content, weekly content. I'm going to give you a weekly plan that you can use for yourself or tweak based on what you need for your business and your availability. So four big things I want you to just consider and think about and let marinate as we talk to one another today. The first is that marketing leads to community connection. It's probably a different approach than maybe someone who is an influencer or someone who's pushing a lot of products, or who's like in a really, really big, gigantic company, not, not so local. But I want you to think or consider thinking that Instagram is an extension of the services you already provide. So, how can you show up online like you do in person? I think a lot of times people get nervous about showing their face or showing up on Instagram. And that's so normal and so valid because it can feel really scary to record a video of yourself talking to no one and then putting it out there to the public. But if you think about Instagram being an extension of the service you already provide, I'm sure you're not, or maybe you're a little nervous, but I'm sure you're not totally nervous to talk to a client or to go to a convention and talk to someone, and introduce yourself. So kind of think about it that way. I think that can help just put things into perspective a little bit and make it not feel so scary. The next thing I would love for you to consider is quality over quantity. And we talked about this just in the slide before about valuing the followers you already have versus the ones you don't. But I'm here to tell you it's about the quality, not about the quantity. 100 engaged followers is way better than 1,000 passive ones. So I'd much rather you have 50, 100 super engaged followers that send you DMs, that like your stuff, that share your content, comment on your posts, rather than 1,000 or 5,000 or 10, whatever the number is, more than whatever you have now, that are passive ones that don't engage with you, don't see your stuff, and don't share it and don't engage with you in your DMs. I like using this analogy of, let's say you have a dinner party and you invite 10 people over, but while they're coming in and having their drinks and getting settled and feeling welcomed, instead of being with them and talking to them, you're going out into the streets of your neighborhood to try to get 10 more people to show up. And you're not even paying attention to the 10 people that you already have that are willing to show up for you, that made time, that are giving you their time out of their busy day. So quality over quantity is something, there's something to be said for that. I truly believe that. The next big picture mindset piece that I want you to consider is zooming out. Instagram is a wonderful place. It allows for plenty of connection. It allows people to grow their businesses. It's a way to connect with people all over the world. And it can be really stressful because there are always so many little tactics that I think people get bogged down over, like hashtags or best times to post, or how many reels you're putting out there compared to carousel posts. And I want you to take a moment, whether that's today or after this workshop, and zoom out a little bit. So instead of stressing about the smallest minute tactics like hashtags or captions or having your keywords in there, which are all important, and you can also zoom out and think about the bigger picture. I want to see you guys get more DMs after you implement these tactics. I want to see you get more website visits. I want to see you get more inquiries into your business, or how to download your app, or how to sign up for your email list, or how to get your freebie. I want to see those conversations. And I want you to focus on those and how you can get those over the really, really tiny tactics that, yes, they can help you, but they're not going to be the end all be all to you growing your business and bringing in more money. And then the last thing is, we can talk about all these tactics, all these little things, but if you can remember like three main pillars for your business, and you guys are providers, you provide a service, maybe you provide a product, but the big thing is connection with people, right? With humans. So if you can remember that your posts and your presence and your brand can involve these three things: trust, visibility, and how you can be more visible, and then connection through conversation, I think that can just help you take the load off, take the weight off of this pressure that we put on ourselves to be the best at Instagram marketing, when, it can be a full-time job. So I want to help make this really easy for you, really approachable, really simple. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Do you have any thoughts about this big picture mindset or the beliefs that you need to have?
Yeah,
Can
Gabby actually put something in the chat that says the fertility sector is very sensitive and engagement is low. I wonder if others feel the same way. And Laura said she would agree. And I would love it if you would talk to us a little bit because obviously Matrikas is a um, provider directory of fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum providers. Fertility, birth, pregnancy, postpartum. This is a lot of like sensitive information. And I think this is something that we all question.
mm,
How do we get our authentic message out there while still being sensitive? Like we're obviously not selling like a face cleanser or something like that that's kind of easily marketed. So do you have any thoughts about like this specific industry?
Yeah, I think for this industry and for this community in particular, that's where stories and DMs will be the feature that I think you may consider using more often, or at least engaging with people more there, because that's where we can have the more intimate conversations where you can be more sensitive, where people maybe don't feel comfortable submitting a public comment that other people can read, but will feel really comfortable reaching out to you because you're experts. They probably will get from you that you are going to be sensitive and just approachable and welcoming. So I think that can be an opportunity too. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Laura also has a question. Go ahead,
Oh,
Laura.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so one of the things that I struggle with, and I wonder if Ashley and Gabby feel the same, is that are there are a lot of bad actors in the fertility space. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of influencers on like Ashley and I are both nurses. Like I find that my credibility gets lost. How do I compete with the people who are like selling the best supplement like that's going to get you pregnant without IVF or the I can't my outcome is I can't promise anyone a pregnancy. So the transformation for my clientele is that they're less stressed, they're avoiding delays in their treatment, but that's so much harder to sell against somebody who's proclaiming that they have these quick fixes and they have like a million Instagram followers and I feel like they're taking up the space.
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. And I wonder if more storytelling could be an avenue for you to connect with more followers emotionally. Because if we think about these bigger brands that are more gimmicky or that don't have a lot of credibility behind them, and the way they're selling is through like quick fixes and like things that are like, empty promises. And for you to be able to share these, to tap into the storytelling a little bit, and it can be professional, without compromising you or your clients or anything. It can be done in a way that I think is meaningful and that can kind of, for lack of a better phrase, like tug at the heartstrings. Like I think emotion for you in the long run will sell more than the quick fixes. And I don't mean to say like, okay, in 90 days, you're also going to have a million followers and be a millionaire. It's unless you want that. It's more just like in the long run, like for you to have these really deep, trustworthy connections with people, I think that's going to be the bread and butter is how to, and it's exploring like how can I tap into the emotions and really get to those people that actually do want someone who's credible, who has the certifications, who I know is an expert and is not going to just sell me something. So I think you're actually also probably looking for different audiences. Like I don't think you want those people that want a quick fix. You want the other people that may not seem as present. Does that help at all? I know that's not a
Yeah,
specific answer.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We have two questions in the chat, and then Kristen has a question. One of the
Sure.
questions in the chat is from Gabby, who's about to log off, and she said, I
Sure.
usually don't get many views in stories. Even when I switch strategies, it might be an algorithm and size on account thing. And then her other question was, do you advise we reach out via DMs to new or current followers? Many people struggling with infertility are ashamed.
Good questions. First question I'll answer first. Stories in general tend to have less reach. It can be anywhere from like it can be like as low as 5% or 10% to maybe 20 or 30% of your followers. So just keeping that in mind, like you're already going to have a less views on your stories unless you start posting there a lot more, have a lot of like professional yet personal content. Like if we think Instagram, like faces always more engagement, things that people want to know. And so adding maybe some more personal elements to your stories, if that's something that you're open to, I think can help increase your views and your reach in stories. And then, so that can be kind of the first strategy is one, posting more stories more consistently. It doesn't have to be every day, but can it be, you're guaranteed to go on there 2 or 3 days a week, every single week. Over time, people are going to kind of be primed for that. And then it's kind of, it feeds on itself. So if someone's engaging more with your stories, they're going to see more of your stories. So if you're then posting more stories, they're going to keep seeing your stories. I know I'm saying the word stories a lot, but that's something to consider. And then for Instagram, for DMing new followers, I think it can be done in a gentle way. Like I would not tell you to DM your new followers and sell them something. I would tell you to maybe DM a new follower and say, hey, I noticed you just followed me. Thank you so much. I'm here if you ever have any questions, and thanks for being here. There's no selling, there's no inkling of a sell. It is just, I want to welcome you. Thank you. And leaving it open ended. I think that is more welcoming, less off putting than someone who's trying to just give them resources without asking, if that's helpful.
I think that's a really great answer to that. And then Kristen, do you want to unmute and give us your question or throw it in the chat?
Okay, I guess it kind of echoes a sentiment about authenticity, with the market being oversaturated. My main concern is I'm in trauma-informed care and I'm a doula. And I do agree. We have a lot of people that have managed to command a lot of attention with gimmicks, but there's that work that's being done, that hard work, not hard work, but heart work that's being done. How do you convey to your audience that you really have their best interest at heart and you're not just trying to get into their pockets, that you really want to walk beside them and navigate with them? How do you, I know it sounds like a chat GPT prompt, but I'm hoping that you'll be able to answer.
I love this question.
Good question.
Yeah. So this is just going to be off the top of my head. So I might think about it and refine it. But one, I think that's a really good question. And it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially because the space is saturated with shady people, for lack of a better word. And at the end of the day, I think if you show up the way you are and with your values through your content and do it in a way that positions yourself to be a service provider and to want to help people, I think people are pretty good about judging and can say, like, okay, well, you know, Kristen is wanting to support me and she's here for me and this is her business. So do I have to pay her? Yes. I think the people that notice the value, your value, and trust you and look to you for advice and want more from you will not hesitate to pay for your services or whatever it is that you provide. And so then my answer is, just continue doing what you're doing and kind of ignore the shady people. I know that's easier said than done, and there's so much nuance to that. But I think if we can keep our values with us and make sure that we share our values in a way that feels really honest to us and feels true, and you're putting it out there with the goodness of your heart, knowing that someone who needs it will see it, and if they have the means, they will pay for it, then like that's the best you can do. If I could wave a magic wand and get rid of all like the MLMs and the shady people and the gimmicks, I would totally do that. But they're always going to be there. So I think it's up to us to stay true to our values, put out content we feel really good about, and just know that that's going to come back to us over time. Is that helpful?
Yes, and I just wanted to say that Soul just dropped in the chat that Kristen, you sold me and we've never met. Your authenticity shines through. Keep being unapologetically you. Thank you, Soul, for that. I think that's Such a beautiful sentiment. And I think, I want to remind everybody on here, go ahead and drop who you are in the chat and, connect with each other in this way, because just like Instagram, and being in person and being on these virtual events, we are here as a community. So we are here to connect with each other. So feel free to connect with each other through this and support each other. I love Instagram and I view it as a cocktail party. And there's a bunch of people that, are out there, and maybe I haven't met them before, maybe I have met them before, but I think that when you are authentic, it does shine through. And that's how you build relationships, whether it's virtual or in person.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I would love to answer more questions. So let me know as they come up, Sally. But I do also want to make sure we cover like the nuts and bolts, which is the boring part, and then we'll get to the exciting part, which is the content and what you can actually post throughout the week that feels realistic. Okay, so features of Instagram. I hope you all are familiar with these 4 features. This is just what Instagram provides for us. So the things that I think will really help you all as providers are feed posts, stories, reels, and highlights. And then baked in there is also DMs, which I think will be especially helpful because this is a vulnerable and intimate industry where people might not feel the most confident about, publicly commenting. So we're going to go over that, but I do also want to touch on the algorithm because that question always comes up and it always changes. So in the year of our Lord, 2025, what is the algorithm right now? And it incorporates 4 things. So the first is activity. So that means users see content from topics and accounts that they're already liking, saving, or sending. So this goes back to what I answered earlier. The more you post consistently, I don't mean more you post because can feel stressful and overwhelming, but the more you post consistently and the more consistently people see your posts, the more they're going to see your posts. So this is all to say, choose a rhythm that you can continue week to week, month to month, year to year. That's when you're going to see more activity because you're being more active. And I know that sounds so obvious, but I think it's worth stating because this is what the algorithm is valuing this year. Number 2, info about the post. So that is if a post has some good reach, some good engagement, then Instagram is going to be more likely to include that post in someone's feed. So whatever it is about the post that's working, every once in a while, maybe 30, 60, 90 days, go back and see what have been your most engaged with posts. Make some notes. What's in the visual? What's in the media that worked? Was it a picture of you? Was it a video? What was in the caption? Was it a story that you told? Was it a testimonial that you shared in a really meaningful way? What was it? Was it a carousel post where people could learn something? What was it? And can you do more of that in the future? The third thing is info about the poster. So people will get recommended posts from users who are similar to the ones they're already following and engaging with. And this is great because if you want to get more connected to people in your industry, it's going to help if you have people that are following you that are either in the industry, fellow small business owners, or individuals who could use your services or other people's services. So that kind of touches on what we've been kind of talking about subtly throughout this whole workshop is community. So the more you can build your community with other small business owners, whether they are directly related to the industry or maybe tangentially, that can help you in the long run because we want to think about Instagram as also casting a net, right? You can actually collaborate, and this is getting ahead, but you can collaborate with other business owners in your industry, maybe indirectly related, to leverage more of their audiences, to reach more people. And the more those posters see your content and it's good content and they're engaging with it, the more they're going to see it in the future. The last piece of the algorithm is history. So if you are always liking someone's posts and frequently visiting their profile, you meaning your follower, then the algorithm will consider this. So this is why each of these 4 things is just one piece of the big puzzle, right? So if someone is actively engaging with you, they're constantly going to your profile or, sending you a message or engaging with you, your stuff is going to get shown to them more often. And that's why it's so important that we choose a rhythm that we can be consistent with. If you're posting 2 days a week, every single week, that's going to get way more engagement than someone who's posting 7 days a week, 1 week, one week the following, none the next, it's not consistent. So you're not going to get that consistent activity and engagement. Okay, let's dive into each of the features of Instagram and talk about their functions, because I think this will help you determine, okay, what do I want to test a little more often? What do I want to put a little bit more weight into? And what do I want to use a little less? And just play around with it. And again, test and tweak. So feed posts, I think, are the most obvious. They're the most, I think they're the most common ways we consume content, feed posts, and that includes reels. But your feed posts are seen by your current followers and new visitors who will intentionally visit your profile. So let's say I go to the We Are Masterclass Instagram page. I can actually scroll through and look at all of the feed posts that are there. And that's how I can learn more about the community. And then your account can also show up in suggested accounts. So in the Explore feed. That's the function of the feed post. I like to think of the feed posts as your virtual storefront. So if somebody is walking past your store, you had a physical store, what would someone see in the window? That's what I think your feed posts stand for, because they're pretty permanent. They live in your feed unless you choose to archive them. And this can be a great way to showcase who you are, what you do, how you help. Two different ways to post feed posts. You can post a static image. You can post a carousel. So just one standalone image. You can do that. You can also have one where people swipe through different graphics, different images. Carousel images can be great for the algorithm because that means someone is spending more time on your posts. They're engaging with it more. They're swiping through. That means your content can get shown to them more in the future. So that's something to consider when you're thinking of feed posts. Can you make your next post a carousel? How can you do that? It's really important to have purposeful content in your feed. So incorporating things like promotional posts. It is important that you promote your business, even though maybe you don't want to, or it makes you uncomfortable. Like, you have a business, you need to make money. This is just the honest truth. And so you do need to have some promotional posts in your feed. However, you can balance that out with connection posts and value-driven posts, so more educational ones. And that can help people feel like it's not so salesy, right? Because people can get turned off if someone is just constantly offering them things. So this is a way to just balance it out. Have some relationship building posts, community-driven posts that aren't just about selling. And the selling is important. I don't want to dismiss that. And then before you publish, 3 things you can ask yourself. Does this post speak to your people, or does it just boost your ego? Am I using keywords in my post? Because hashtags are important still, but they're not the end all be all now. Instagram has, it's almost like SEO for Instagram. If you include keywords in your caption, like fertility, postpartum, pregnancy, prenatal, it can show up when people search for things in the search bar of Instagram. If you are at a specific location, do you want to add locations or things like that? All right. Stories, feature and function of stories. This, I think, will be really important for providers like yourselves. Stories are mostly seen by your current followers. Yes, someone who's not following you can view your stories, but if you think about Instagram and you look at your home feed at the top, right, you see those circles, those are people's stories. So your stories are seen by mostly current followers. So, and most recent stories will show further to the left of someone's stories feed, and that's time-based. So, if I post before Sally does and you're following both of us, you'll see my story ahead of hers. It's timely. And I love Instagram's stories so much as a relationship builder, because this is a way for you to engage with someone one-on-one, to build a relationship with them, and then to maybe offer your services, or at least just let them know that you're here to support them and help them. If that is the first priority for you, and you open with that and you're honest about that, people are really, really going to get used to and get in the habit of sending you DMs and engaging with you in stories. You can post both video clips and images in stories. Your video clips can actually be up to 60 seconds now, not just 15 seconds like it was years ago. So that's something just to think about, especially when it comes to repurposing. Like, you can record a video and not only post it to stories, but maybe post it in your reels in a day or two, and diversify your content and save yourself time. So you have to create 2 videos, you just have the one. I also love stories because it's very interactive. You can include things called stickers where you can allow people to literally engage with your stories without typing anything to you. Examples of stickers, which you may be already familiar with, are polls. So you can poll your followers and ask them to share their opinion about something. You can have them ask you a question. It can be very open-ended. A lot of people will do ask me anythings, maybe once a month, and answer all the questions that come in. You can either, if you're not getting anyone submitting questions, you could submit the questions yourself or have a friend do it and then answer those questions. It can, it can still be valuable to people. You can also have them slide. You can have them tap things. You can include links, which are all really helpful. And then when it comes to type of stories, it really is up to you. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do here. It really is going to be up to, you can determine for yourself. But I also really think that behind the scenes content really shines here because it doesn't have to be aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't have to be polished. It's stories. It goes away in 24 hours, or you can delete it before that. So I think this is your chance to show a more personal side, build that trust, build those relationships with your people, so that when it comes time to sell, it feels less icky to people. It feels more natural. Like, oh yeah, I'm best friends with Sally already. Like, of course I'm gonna just ask her to invoice me for her service. Like that's easy. So that's the purpose of stories. Reels are seen. I know I'm going fast, but I want to make sure I have time for questions and for the content part. So bear with me. So feature and function of Reels. Reels are amazing. Video content has been really popular for the past 5 years. Reels are seen by your current followers and actually many times by people who are not currently following you. So if you're sitting there and you're asking me, hey, Jess, how do I get in front of more people, but I don't have money to spend on ads? I would tell you to consider posting more Reels. Just raise your hand or put it in the chat if you ever spend time scrolling through Reels. For me personally, most of the Reels I see are not people that I follow. So it's a really cool way for me to see new accounts, to follow new people. And I have definitely followed a fair number of people just from seeing their Reels for the first time. It's a growth builder. It's, Adam Mosseri, who's the CEO of Instagram, said this himself last year. It's the best way to grow is to create engaging Reels. You heard it from the man himself, so why not try it? You know what I mean? So I definitely consider making entertaining Reels. They can be inspirational. If you have a creative flair for video content, you can flex your creative muscles with it. No, you do not have to dance. No, you don't have to lip sync if that's not your thing. You can just set up your phone, make a talking head video, which is just, make a talking video, and, you can cut it down if you want. You can edit it, take out the ums and the pauses, and just post it. It really can be that simple. As far as length goes, just for the technical stuff, you have a maximum of 3 minutes, but consider that the algorithm does favor less than 90 seconds. So just because they tell you can have a 3-minute reel doesn't mean that you should. I like short and sweet and concise. So if you can get it 90 seconds or under, I think that's great. And then also thinking about the way users use reels. This is crazy to say this, but the first 3 seconds, which is not long, but the first 3 seconds are crucial. So if you open up your reel and you tell people exactly what they're going to get from this video or who you are, that's going to capture them and inspire them to not scroll past you and to watch your entire reel. You can see here, and actually, Sally, maybe I can send these slides to you so that folks can have them, because I know I am talking really fast, but just as a reference, there's different reels styles. You can do a talking head video. If you don't like talking and that thought makes you break out into a nervous sweat, you can do what I call B-roll videos, where you are just taking video of maybe your walk, or maybe you set it up and you're pretending like you're having a Zoom conversation with a client. And then you can overlay some text. You can overlay a voiceover, especially if you don't want to be looking at the camera and just speaking. That can be a way around it. Of course, you can lip sync and dance. And then you can also have a carousel of photos. So it doesn't have to be videos. You can have photos that people can actually scroll through, and that's the reel. I haven't tested a lot of those, and I haven't had a lot of clients that do. Usually when they're doing reels, they really do videos. Okay. DMs, another feature that I think will be really impactful for providers like yourselves. Why is that? We've kind of been talking about this already, but it really deepens a connection. What better way to build a connection than to have a one-on-one connection and conversation with someone? That's true in real life. It is certainly true on Instagram. How can I help you facilitate that? How can I help you increase your DMs? I'm hoping that the content that we talk about in a couple minutes here will help you do that. DMs can also encourage growth in your email list, which, Instagram is my specialty. I love it. However, we do not own our followers. If your account gets hacked or something awful happens, how are you going to reach out to all of those people? So we can use our direct messages to actually encourage people to join our email list, to sign up for something. We can give them an incentive, something to download, a guide, a freebie, something like that. But this is also a great place for that because you get to speak to them one-on-one. If you are a busy person and you want to reach out to people and you want to give them a resource, but you don't know how to do it automatically, there are platforms for this exact thing. You can use something like ManyChat. It allows you to have up to 1,000 contacts where you can automate your DMs from a prompt. And you've all probably seen this, comment below, comment Masterclass below if you want the guide. And, a lot of times an automated service like ManyChat is doing that DMing. So you can set that up. I have a free account that I use, so you can try that too. If that's not something that you want to explore right now, you can just do it manual. You can say, hey, comment Masterclass below and I'll send you the guide. And then you can just make sure you check in at the end of the day, DM those people with whatever link or resource you're sharing, and you can do it manually. So ways to use DMs, definitely a conversation starter, a connection builder. This is a great way for you to send them a lead magnet, a freebie, links to your website if they want to learn something, and also get feedback and testimonials. If you think about your current clients or your current customers and you want to get, we all know how hard it is to get testimonials. This can be a really quick way to do it. Like, hey, we had a session yesterday. How are you feeling after, a day of thinking about what we talked about? And you can take a screenshot of what they shared, obviously get their permission, and you can use that for your testimonials that you share in whatever way you share it. All right, so that's DMs, highlights. And then I think I'll pause for questions before we go over weekly content. So highlights. This isn't going to make or break your business, but it can be really helpful when someone is visiting your profile, wanting to learn more about you. This kind of goes along with your feed. I like to think of it as your virtual storefront. So it helps maximize your visibility and what you offer and the things that are really important to you as a business owner on your highlights. So if you're not familiar with what highlights are, there's stories that you actually save and bookmark onto your Instagram profile, and they show up right under your bio. They're just little circles. You can categorize them like about me, testimonials, events I've been at and been to lately, services I provide. And each of those can have a cover image that you either select from an existing story, or you can make one in Canva or have your designer make it. And it can be branded so that your profile looks a little clean, a little organized, a little aesthetically pleasing. That's obviously not a requirement, but it can help with your brand and your branding. Highlights to have, we just talked about, I just listed some out, but about you is nice, services you provide, links to your app for people to download. What are your frequently asked questions? Maybe you take some of those question boxes that you had in your stories and put them in your highlights, as well as resources about your services. Okay, I'm going to stop talking for just a second. Do we have questions or thoughts about the features and functions of Instagram? And yet, if any come up, please feel free to put them in the chat. Hopefully you didn't feel like you were drinking out of a fire hydrant. But hopefully that was all kind of it gave you a little bit of a glimpse into just a general form and function of each feature. I think this is going to be maybe your favorite part of the workshop is actual content. How can we implement what we've talked about in the first parts of the workshop to actually creating content? So I'd love to go over types of content. And then I'm actually going to give you a weekly content flow example that you can take with you and replicate week to week. If it's not to your liking, you can tweak it. Again, there's no right or wrong. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do things and guarantee that you're going to become a millionaire. I want to give you the tools and then give you the space to make it work for your business, because that to me is what's more important than me telling you what works and what doesn't. Okay, and then we'll finish with why repurposing can definitely be something that you do as a content creator and a provider, because that's going to save you time. It's going to underline your value and your knowledge and your expertise, and it can be a good reminder for folks too. So, when we think about content, it can feel really overwhelming, because if you're like the business owners I work with, maybe you sit down, it's Tuesday afternoon here on the East Coast, and you're like, crap, I haven't posted in a week. Jess just told me I need to post consistently. What am I going to post about? There's so many things. I have so many ideas. There's so many things I want to share about. What do I do? And then you have that paralysis by analysis moment. So if you can think of these three main types of content, or these three content buckets, it can help you just keep your blinders on, stay focused, and know that you're putting good stuff out there. So if you're ever lost and stuck, refer back to these three main categories: educational, so things that are second nature to you, but will be mind-blowing to somebody else. If you are, I'll just use my own business as an example. So things that are educational to me can be, three functions of stories that you don't think about, and that can be something educational. It's very straightforward, it's concise. I'm using layman's terms. I'm not trying to use fancy speak, because that can turn off some people, and it's just, it is what it is. It's educational. Number two, brand posts. So those are things that you probably think of when you think of marketing. So latest news or events, conferences you're going to be at, public speaking engagements, client experiences, promotional things you're offering right now in this season, for current clients or future clients, relating it back to them is going to be important. So again, just putting yourself in a position where you are telling people, like, I'm here to help you and support you. How can I do that? That is a really, really great way to promote your offers, without it feeling salesy or icky. And the final type of content is connection. This is what I love. I love the connection, because it just makes your presence more human, and it makes your brand more attractive, and it makes me want to be best friends with you. So connection, it's your story, your journey, your struggles. But it's not just that. It's about how it relates back to your people. Because I think there's a difference in just talking about yourself and loving the attention you get, versus talking about yourself in a way that people can actually relate to and resonate with and feel some kind of emotion towards. That, to me, is what's going to sell a product or a service, because you're not making it about you. You're using yourself as a bridge between what someone's struggling with and how you can help them. So if you feel lost, I would definitely refer back to these three types of content. And of course, there's different offshoots of each of those. Okay. Weekly content flow. This is a flow that I thought of specifically for you all. I think it can be really simple, and it's really repeatable, and it underlines what we talked about earlier with the one-on-one conversations. So showing up more on stories, I think, in the long run, and I'll be curious what you all think, in a few months, what you see. I think that can be where you kind of live a little bit more, and where you show your value more, because that's where you're going to have these really personal connections and direct messages and conversations with people. So, Sunday through Sunday, this can be your content flow. You can have one feed post, right? And refer back to your content pillars: education, brand, and promotion. You can have one feed post for the week. Maybe it's every Monday you have a feed post. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you are very present on stories. You are showing up, you're offering something educational for them that's of value. You're talking about your business. You are sharing a story. You're sharing a client story. Maybe you're breaking down the feed post that you posted on Monday and formatting it for stories, and talking a little bit about it there, and unpacking it a little bit more. So you're not creating something new. You're using what you've already created and expanding on it. And that can be really valuable too. And then maybe, every Friday you post a reel. It can be the same thing that you posted in your feed post, but packaged in a different way, so that people can feel comfortable talking to you and talking back to you. Or maybe it's a reminder to them, like, oh yeah, I saw that on Monday. This is really helpful to hear you talk about it, in person, on video. People consume information in different ways. So thinking of how we can package it to them might feel redundant, but to someone else, to a follower, it might feel really valuable, because maybe they consume it better in video form. And I do have, so I'll go back to that, but here is what it could look like. If you're going to have a planner or if you're going to just jot ideas down, this is what it can look like. If I am going to talk about 3 postpartum myths, and that's going to be my feed post for the week, how am I going to do it? So first I determine the content itself, and that's 3 postpartum myths. And then I determine how I want to post it, how I want it to be consumed. So maybe in this instance, I'm deciding to do carousel posts in the feed where I have text on each slide. People can swipe through, read through each myth, and then I can dispel the myth. And then maybe that same day, I'm going to just go in Canva. I'm going to reformat the size of the carousel post for stories so that they just look a little bit better for stories. Again, you don't have to do that. You can just literally post your feed posts right to your stories. That's totally fine. And then maybe on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about an in-person event, and I'm going to make a reel, and I'm just going to set it up. I'm going to talk for 30 seconds about the in-person event that I'm attending and that I hope to see people there, and I'm really excited, and I can share that to stories. So that's my second day that I'm going to show up on stories. And then maybe Friday, I want to do a connection post because I know that storytelling draws emotion from people and it gets people to relate to me and it makes me more memorable. So maybe I'm going to share a photo of me working with someone, and I'm going to write about what that means to me and why it's important that I help people and support them with my services. And I can take that caption, I can separate it, I can literally copy and paste that caption and put it into stories. So that's another way I can repurpose. And there's my week. I'm not on every day. I am not stressing out over every little feature. I am choosing the 3 pieces of content I'm going to share. I'm figuring out how I can distill it out across the different features of Instagram. And this kind of goes back to why repurposing can really help you with your business. I'm here thinking about you and your time and how limited time you might have and how I want you to still show up in a valuable way. So you can have one idea, you can have multiple formats, and that allows you to stretch your content and really reinforce the information. I don't know if you're like this. I'm not like this. I don't just see something one time and know it like the back of my hand. I have to see it multiple times in different ways. Sometimes I need to hear it. Sometimes I need to write it out. Sometimes I need to see a video of it. I need to see it play out. So you're just really trying to help people understand your brand, and what you're trying to teach them. I know I went through that really, really quickly, but I know we are getting close to the ending time. And I just want to underline that, if you don't walk away with anything else, please remember this, that connection is so much more valuable. Connection over perfection is what I want you to remember. And that simply being consistent and having conversations is what's going to take you really far, especially if you think about Instagram as a long game, not something that you're going to see success from in 30 days, but maybe 90 days, maybe a few months. And I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, but it is the truth, especially if you are not spending money on ads right now. Okay, so I would love to hear if you have questions in the chat, but I do actually want to read through the chat. What was your biggest takeaway from today? What's one feature that you would like to focus on or just try this week if you haven't tried one of the features of Instagram yet? And then obviously ask me questions. I'd love to read through those and ask for your help, Sally, in kind of getting the questions up there. I do have an offer for you all. I offer a mini audit. So it's a 30-minute, I get to look at your profile, offer you some changes that you can make right away to build these connections with your people, and then also give you an action plan that's really specific for your business. If you use the code MantraCast, you can sign up for that on my website. If that's not something you're interested in right now, I also have 7 content prompts for providers that I have created for you all. And I'll share these slides with Sally so that she can send you the link. But that is on there too, in case you just want something different from me. But thank you guys. I love doing these. This is one of my favorite things to do, is just teach people how to use Instagram in a way that's more simple and effective. But thank you for your time.